the key to being for longevity in the church as a pastor?
I've been at this church as a pastor for 25 years. I've been in ministry since I was in my early 20s. So that gives me 40 years at least of ministry. Not as lead pastor, but a few times I almost left ministry just because of the frustration of human behavior. And I said, who needs this? You're going to all be tested in this. You're going to be tested in, should I continue in this? Is it worth the headache? If you are in ministry for the approval of human beings, then you probably shouldn't get into ministry. The approval you should be seeking for is the approval of God, which is outside of what humans think of you. I think I'm in it not because of me. A few times I would have quit, and for some reason God kept me from quitting. I don't know why. I probably would have always gone and started a new church or whatever. I've always done that. Had a Bible study at home. No matter where I go, I try to minister for the Lord. So it may not be in an official capacity, but like I said at the beginning, all Christians are a priesthood, therefore everything we do is a ministry. So even if I got, quote unquote, kicked out of an official church, I would always witness, I would always disciple, I would always invite people over, I would always try to share Christ with people. And if you look at ministry that way, you won't get frustrated when things go wrong in the bigger formalized structures called churches. Serve the Lord, no matter if it's big or little, serve Him.
So when you talk about outcomes, so you said we're not in ministry for this, but what outcomes can we expect? Why are we doing this?
Again, I think when you're a younger minister, you have perhaps in your mind thoughts of building something big. And maybe the Lord will let you do that. Maybe that's something that God will let you have. You have to be careful with that because you can get full of yourself if you're not careful. Outcomes are God's, they're not ours. Stay faithful, teach, preach, in season, out of season, Paul told Timothy. That is, no matter what, as a Christian, always be willing to witness, to share, to open your heart, your house, your time to people who need Christ. And God will use those things. The reason we are in ministry is not for men, or even not for ourselves now as I've looked back on things. It says Christ didn't entrust Himself to men, for He knew what was in men. Well, that's all of us. Inside of us is the sin nature, and you need to trust God in outcomes, because your impact in the eternal plan of God is really, even if you have quote unquote a large ministry, it's still minuscule. We are simply called to be faithful, to teach and to share the things of God with people around us as best as we know. On top of that, there's all of our own personal failings and sins and struggles that we all go through, and Christian ministers are not exempt from these things. Be aware of your own weaknesses. If you're not, you'll fall to them.
Let's talk a little bit about what you see the future of the church. Where are we going? What do you think we're going, and what do we have to do to be the church in 21st or 22nd century?
I think that the Christian, in America anyway, I think the conservative side of the Christian church, which believes certain things biblically and even socially, I think that we Christians need to de-emphasize aligning ourselves with political structures, because it creates a division that prohibits us from ministering to people of a different persuasion. So we are Christians. We're not called to take sides about things. We're called to almost stay out of the fracas. Jesus neither gravitated towards the Pharisees nor the Sadducees. Somehow He stayed out of the middle of all of that, and He focused in on reaching people for Christ, for God, for the kingdom of God. So to me, there's too much panic about what's happening politically, socially, economically, etc. Focus in on doing the things that every Christian needs to do. Reach one person at a time for Christ, disciple one person at a time, leave the future of that to God, because He has to manage global things, and He does it well, and He knows what He's doing. We are seeing what appears from our perspective when we look at culture, society, and especially the church. Everybody's throwing up their hands. And I wonder if every generation does that and thinks that, forget it, it's going to go to hell in a handbasket, so to speak, to use the colloquialism. That's cynicism, and I refuse to surrender to a cynical attitude. I think I have an optimistic attitude. God knows what He's doing. He has a perfect understanding of all that will happen. And it's not like He's got a perfect plan, we've got to figure that perfect plan out. God has a perfect plan because God is perfect. His working of things is perfect, including the good and the bad and the ugly. He works all things unto good for the people of God. So that includes world wars, earthquakes, deaths, famines, heart attacks, church splits, everything. He uses it all. So stop trying to control it all. Just whether you let God or not, it's going to matter. He's going to control everything to the end of time.